BitShares is a world-class blockchain like Bitcoin with a digital currency platform boasting enterprise-level scalability and throughput with separations of power and self-governance baked in. Need the power of a blockchain with the stability of a dollar? We invented it and tested it for 3 years. Want to make a loyalty token, coupon, or shares in your business? We have you covered. Wish to add world-class development? This tech can fund your work. Whether for an everyday entrepreneur or computer-savvy code guru, BitShares provides tools to empower a world of unapologetic innovators to wield and share value with a level of freedom once thought impossible. Meet a community of such innovators every Friday at 2 p.m. UTC, led by Chris Herring and Fuzzy, to play a role in the evolution and advancement of this state-of-the-art project. Welcome to the BitShares revolution. You just leveled up.
To the next episode of the BitShares Hangout, number 22. Today again with Chris 4210 and official Fuzzy, just right back from the Consensus 2017. Freshly from New York. We're going to have a lot of cool updates this week. We're going to talk about what is happening in the BitShares ecosystem, all the good news updates about EOS, how the connection between BitShares and EOS, and also what I saw just today in the chat room, we're going to have a new blockchain explorer. I think that's going to be a really, really exciting topic that we're going to talk about today. We see a lot of huge growth. We saw a phenomenal price rally going up for BitShares, almost going up to 10 cents on the dollar. I think that's going to be really amazing to see how BitShares is going to move up in the price. And also, of course, the big question, will we stay there, or if you're going to go down with them. Next to that, we also would like to talk about part of community request. We would like to talk about stealth today, see what's going on there. I'm also very happy to get some updates on this part shared with all of you. And of course, what we also would like to talk about is, I don't know if you already saw the news, BitShares and Steemit is going to be integrated into the new Jax wallet. So the multi-currency wallet from Decentral now is also going to feature BitShares. I think that is absolutely cool. And I'm very interested if you have new up that one, if you use Jax. I personally have a Jax wallet. I don't really like the design too much, but to say hello to BitShares, I think that's pretty cool. Jax also has a partnership together with Shapeshift, so you can easily put Bitcoins into your Jax wallet and then convert it into BitShares or Steem. I think that's going to be another cool tool, especially for the BitShares community, and I'm happy to also collect a couple of your feedback. What do you think about that new Jax wallet, and if you're also a heavy Jax user? Fuzzy, I would like to give you the first words for today, and I would like to give us a little update about Consensus. What was your impression? BitShares was, I think, all over the also with Open Ledger. What did you see? What did you recognize?
Are you asking on the BitShares front?
Yes. Give us some updates, please.
Well, I will tell you from my perspective what happened when we were there, largely because the first day that we were at Consensus, I said, okay, this is the day that we play and we meet everybody that I haven't met forever. I've never met any of them in person. So that was the most important first step. I can't call that work because that was kind of something I've been looking forward to for a while. But then, as everybody will tell you, I told them, yes, I'm here for free, but I also feel like I should probably be helping EOS. And of course, I can't help EOS without helping BitShares. So I went around wearing the EOS shirt that I was given and went around to multiple booths. I probably have about 50 different cards of people who I pitched BitShares to, because I had to pitch BitShares to give them the understanding of the basic premise behind why EOS itself would be so powerful, right? Because that's kind of the stepping stone. So I would go around and kind of explain BitShares. I would explain that it's second in transactions, like daily transactions, just behind Bitcoin, right ahead of Steem, and both Steem and BitShares are way ahead of the Ethereums each of them both having an average transactions per day of more than both Ethereums combined. And that was really one of the centerpieces for me trying to show people what they didn't know. Right. And I asked him, have you seen that the price of BitShares has been going up? And I suspect that that's why. Now, I can't tell for sure that that's why, but when people start getting these stats and they look at them, it's hard to ignore hard, raw numbers. So with that said, it was very effective, and a lot of people seemed like they were very interested. Now, I will say, and this is nothing bad toward Toyota. However, I did have kind of an interesting conversation with them. This is slightly off topic. It's not directly related to BTS, but I did find that they were talking about utilizing cryptocurrencies and stuff like that, and they wanted to have fleets of self-driving cars. And personally, I'm more of a person who says we should all be able to use our own cars and have a free market of, ride sharing like that. But obviously, big companies like Toyota, they don't want that. They want to have their own fleets that they all control all of. And when I brought this up to the guy, with the connotation of the philosophical aspects behind it, and what if it comes down to freedom of movement, and we really care about decentralization of that kind of power, where does he stand? So at that point, he looked at his phone, said, I think I have a meeting," smiled at me, and I got the message, stepped back, went and looked around the corner. About a minute later, he was still there. So I suspect that the ideology behind what BitShares is might still be a little bit hard for a lot of people, especially in especially in the big space, like these enterprise level spaces, because this business is a big deal to them, and for obvious reasons. But it was definitely probably one of the ones that I wish I could have gotten across to them. But there were so many people that I got to meet. I met people from Sia Coin. There was a Coinbase competitor that is popping up that I was talking to about being potential gateway. So we got a lot of stuff done, actually. That was before I went to the VIP party and got sick trying to drink a single beer, mind you. So.
Well, what is your impression? Do you have the feeling that after Steemit and after the big announcement of EOS, the people that went to the consensus, do they better understand actually how BitShares work and how the delegated proof of stake system has? What are the benefits and so on? Do you see a change here? People is easier to understand?
I'll say that I think a lot of were really pumped up. Whenever they were asking questions in the EOS talks, Dan, of course, he has all the answers, and they make sense. They're rational, logical answers, and people would throw difficult questions, and they were always answered succinctly, to the point, and with a powerful message to them. And you could tell, at least I could tell, or I felt like I could tell, that people were pretty interested in this because of the answers that he was giving. And I mean, people, they didn't ask easy questions either. The one that we did run into that was probably the biggest question that was hard to answer is something that all of crypto, I think, will always have to deal with. And that's what our founding fathers in the USA kind of said, was everything is eventually going to become corrupt. You just have to have some way of restarting. And that was the ultimate answer to probably the most difficult question. But we all know from Dan's past that he's very much intending on everything he builds to be open source. And because of those past actions, I felt very comfortable telling the lady and helping her understand after the EOS conference, or the talk. She was a lawyer asking these questions, right? And I got an opportunity to really talk to her about it. And I think a lot of those people aren't really very crypto savvy. They're learning, and we don't recognize how much we know compared to them, right? And these are people who are generally pretty high paid careers. They're just starting to pick up and understand that this technology really exists. And I think we did a good job as a group, really kind of reaching out to these people.
And to chime in, if it's okay, I would just add on. I think the marketing push that was done by EOS was very effective at highlighting decentralized blockchains in general, and also highlighting BitShares and Steemit in addition in the process. So for those who were unaware, which I think is probably majority of the attendees, I think this marketing push was very effective at getting the message out.
Yeah, Dan definitely used Steam and BitShares liberally to describe how things would be kind of like a use case, the use case examples that really kind of form the foundation of why EOS is going to be powerful, right? I almost feel like if those two chains didn't exist, we really wouldn't be able to sell EOS like they did.
Exactly, Fuzzy. And you've got a lot of other people in the different communities that you already built into the new one, too.
Yep.
And it's interesting to contrast against what Fuzzy highlighted earlier, which is a lot of the attendees and the vendors are not interested in decentralized for various reasons, but mostly business reasons. So it's an interesting contrast among the various attendees there.
That's a great point, because there are, when I was I was talking to one of the guys who was there, and he has been in IT for 30 years. As a consultant, largely. And he told me, he said, I've been to so many conferences in my life, and he said that this conference and this community, the crypto community in general, seemed like the most raw, organic, and full of life of all the conferences gone to. He kind of said to me pretty much that he was getting addicted to cryptocurrency before he really even got into cryptocurrency because of the community. And
that's going to keep happening because
Yep.
The cryptocurrencies give us value, and we give value to the cryptocurrency, and they grow together, and that's such a huge thing.
Yep, to have the direct feedback in that.
Right. And I had a great experience meeting people at Consensus in different parts, and because of the many different things I do, and that's a kind of getting feedback and giving feedback. And thank you very much to everyone I met, and all the energy was great.
Virtual Growth and I bunked together.
Yeah, they spent lots of time talking. It was lots of fun.
Lots of time debating too.
Oh yeah, that too. Understanding and learning.
Oh, it was a blast, man.
Very much so.
But let me go ahead and step back. I'm sorry, Chris. I really kind of went off on that to answer a lot. So I'll step back and let you go ahead and feel free to say anything that you were wanting to bring up.
Dead air. Wow. Well, we don't really have any particular order to the agenda items, right?
No, we can bring them up in whatever order that you'd want to. We have the list, so I would ask that we try to keep it somewhat on topic, if at all possible, or try to move from topic to topic seamlessly in some way, shape, or form, right?
Cool. Would I be able to talk about Hertz then, if that's the case, if we've run out of things to talk about?
Well, we have the agenda, and I think Chris might have some technical issues, or maybe he stepped away for something. I'm trying to find out right now what's going on.
Cool, no worries.
But I will say Hertz is cool. It's really cool. And I also liked the visualization that you produced, because it kind of like these algorithms kind of give you an understanding of what it's supposed to do. So you kind of like get to trade accordingly. But yeah, it's a really cool experiment, CM. I'll give that to you.
Thanks. I just need to, clear up some concerns regarding, specific smart coin settings and stuff. I think it'd be good to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Why don't you go ahead and cover it? I'll go ahead and I'll get this agenda list on my notepad, Doc, and I'll go ahead and I'll move forward after we're done with what you're talking about, if that's cool with you.
All right. Cool. Yeah, it won't take more than 10 minutes. So basically, for anyone that's not heard of Hertz before, it's a new algorithm-based asset. Like it's basically a smart coin or a market-pegged asset, which is pegged against a soon-to-be agreed-upon backing asset and modified to oscillate between rising the price feed and decreasing it in a predictable manner using like a sine wave. Thus, we create phases of buying and selling pressure constantly back and forth forever. Or that's the kind of experiment that I'm trying to propose with Hertz. Some users have talked about creating different Hertz tokens to represent different backing assets or different amplitudes, or the frequency of the oscillation, because currently the oscillation that Hertz has is a period of 1 month. So a full wave will be 1 month, and it oscillates 50% both directions. So it's quite a lot of leeway, But what I'm trying to say is, we've got a poll open right now in the BitShares talk thread, asking what people want it to be based upon: the CNY, US dollar, the XDR. So have your input, and we'll go with it. So one of the main things I've still got left to do is get price feed support from 0C. He does that in Python, so I've given like a very brief Python kind of pseudocode implementation, but I'm primarily using Haskell, so you can check that out. There's like slight differences that might occur in the way that we measure time. I use block times, and he uses the real time of the computer, so there might be a bit of difference there. Got to clear that up. But so one of my main concerns that I'm not quite clear on with regards to smart coin settings, people can hear me. I'm just not talking to myself.
No, we hear you perfectly.
All right, sweet. So it's if you were to buy at the top of the, all right, so a bit of background. The default value for the forced settlement is 1%. So if the feed price deviates 1% from where you issued it, you're forced to settle. I believe that's what occurs, So that's good for your US dollar, your fiat coins, but we're proposing to fluctuate the asset by 100%, effectively, up 50%, down 50%. So if you were to issue it at the top and it went down, 1% after 5 days, then you'd be forced to settle with its settings. So what would be an appropriate value? Would it be, 66%, so that you were able to issue it at the top? It decreases by 66%, from 1.5 to 0.5. That way, if you're to issue it at the top, you wouldn't be forced to settle throughout the entire fluctuation. Or do you think that would be dangerous? I'm just kind of worried about. I don't want users to be forced settled through the the entire oscillation. Or just, does anyone have any kind of input on how that would be appropriate for the fluctuation of 100%?
Well, isn't forced settlement, as I understand it, is a mechanism that is meant to make it so people will have kind of more of a free market. Like, I can put up more collateral than you, and that makes it so I'm less likely to be forced settled, right?
Yeah, I think custom miner. I think what you're talking about is I don't recall what's the full proper term, but I think you're talking about the automatic margin call. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe so. It's 1% for normal fiat tokens.
Right.
Well, I've put it to 70%. If anyone thinks that's critically wrong and will just instantly black swan, I'd appreciate some input on the BitShares talk thread. I'm also discussing different types of waves you use, so not just having a simple sine wave, adding multiple waves together to get, funky periods of stability in the middle. I'd appreciate some input on the thread, guys. Cheers.
Sure, we'll do.
It's definitely something that is. I don't know what the answer is off the top of my head, but I find myself thinking, it would be very worth it for us to maybe help fund research like this in some way, shape, or form. So I'll tell you right now, I'll gladly give you some whale shares to use to help update people on what your findings are and try to help pay toward that. Because I think that the data, it's going to be really hard to find that information because your instruments are so different because of these algorithms than the flat market. It's a little bit more complex now. So I'm trying to see how, and I think you're feeling the same way. And I'm thinking maybe we can try to help pay for you to kind of give us some information as you learn, and kind of mitigate the risk a little bit in that respect, at least. I don't know off the top of my head the answer, though, man.
It might be worth doing testnet phases, basically not jumping onto production until we know we've tested out, different amplitudes, different frequencies, and how frequent, witnesses are going to be willing to create price feeds. That's actually something that's a wee bit weird. That we charge witnesses to pay for publishing price feeds. If that was to be minimized, that'd be awesome. So we could encourage high frequency price feed updates.
Yeah, unfortunately, the price feeds are not separate from the witness roll. They're rolled in together. So, and I put this idea forward for quite some time. In fact, in the marketing discussion the other night, we were talking about adding things like BitPesa and BitRupel and BitRuby rupee or whatever it is in India, because those currencies in those countries are obviously something that would be attractive if people saw those bid assets, which is a stabilized currency. I think there would be a big draw to it. So I think having other bid assets is a great addition that we could make, but it does take some effort to code those and find the sources that are going to be reliable. So I'd like to see feeds split out, but there's not been any public position for doing that apparently so far.
But I'll vote to support a worker to implement that if it needs some coding. You know what I mean?
Well, the problem with coding it from a worker position, I mean, it's not necessarily a problem, but one of the drawbacks to doing it that way is you have one source that's disseminated amongst the witnesses, but it needs to be tailorable so each witness can decide what price feeds they want to provide and which ones they have that they wish to endorse. So a centralized approach. I mean, there's only a handful of people that have made scripts for price feeds in general. So the fact that there's more than one is a good thing, and the more the merrier for providing the diversity of feeds that we need.
Yeah, true. What price feeds are there? I believe there's X0Cs, but there's another one I need to get support. I'd appreciate on that in the BitShares talk thread, guys.
Were you asking what scripts are available for producing feeds?
Yeah, just so that I can cover the most witnesses as possible.
Well, I know for example, have been using BTS tools, and Wacko has is his handle. He has been updating that since the early days, even before BitShares 2 came out. So he's been pretty proactive, although he's an extremely busy guy, so it's hard to get FaceTime with him. But he is on Telegram, and he does keep things up to date pretty good. So he added the Bit20 protocol early on, along with Fox. And as soon as the tools are updated, then I update mine. And I'm not quite yet, but I'm very close to being in the position where I can actually add additional Python code to his tools to help him maintain it, because his time is so scarce.
Cool. Thanks for that, man. That's really helpful.
Okay, I'm ready to talk about stealth if we want to move on.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Thanks, guys.
Sure.
Okay,
Actually, I would like to give first another important update for the BitShares platform. I think we talked a lot about the fees in the last couple of weeks and days, and I just wanted to give an update of the BitShares committee. I think as of this week, days ago, we approved the change of witness pay from 3 BitShares down to 1 BitShares per block again. So right now the witness pay has been adjusted, and I would also like to give the update from the committee that we're actively discussing a new price-free structure according to the latest price movements, because I think everybody saw that the price of BitShares went up, and of course we also want to keep the fees low, especially for trading, for asset creation, and so on and so on. So the committee right now is actively debating, okay, what kind of fees should be adjusted and what kind of time interval should adjust it. So I think we also have a discussion here with Buzz in the forum. I think he's not able to speak today. But definitely the committee here is very active, looking at the fees, looking at the problems, and we are talking about how we can keep the correct prices actively. Because of course, if you want to get a lifetime membership on BitShares, it shouldn't be too expensive, but it shouldn't also be too cheap. So we are actively working on that. This is just an update. Yeah.
Chris, on that topic, did you mentioned lifetime membership fees? That's been something I've noticed coming up in the chat room in Telegram pretty frequently, that the lifetime fees were $500 or $600 or something like that. Now, what target do you has been discussed? Is it going to return to the $100 level for the lifetime memberships, or has that not been settled yet?
I would say it's not settled yet, but it's around the range between 100 and I would say $160, something around that. There were some voices who said, okay, we should increase a little bit the price for a lifetime membership, and others, of course, it has to be adjusted to the former levels. There is no question asked about that, but there are some voices who would like to up like $20 or $30 for the lifetime membership. For the other fees, trading, settlement, and so on, it's all the same. I think another big topic that a lot of people or a lot of voices we had in the Telegram, I think over the last months already, is the topic of vesting fees. If you basically want to get your money back as a cashback from the vesting account, right now the fees are I think like they are more expensive. I cannot tell you the exact fees right now, but that's another topic looking at, and we are thinking about what could be the best appropriate way, the best fee to pay here.
And Chris, do you have any estimate about when the committee will decide and execute the updated fees?
No, sorry, I don't have a time frame yet, but I think it will be very soon. The big question we have right now is, will be the BitShares price? Will it be stable? Will it go up or will it be down? We were a little bit worried after the consensus, especially with EOS. Will have a huge price impact if the price go up or down. But we are monitoring that because, we are thinking about, okay, should we change the fees every week or should there be a different model? We are also thinking about should we basically create like a new fee structure where the fee prices are pegged to the USD. In this way, we don't have to adjust it all the time when the BitShares price goes up and down, but then we would be affected by the US dollar and the inflation of the US dollar. So some committee members don't like that. So we are still here in the discussion. The most important thing is where is the BitShares price going and how fast is it going up and down? So right now we are at...
That's really key because having the frequent updates may be necessary if the market's so volatile, but it puts a lot more burden on you guys on the committee. But what about publishing USD equivalencies for all the fees as well as CNY? We need to address the CNY component of our community, so it might be good to publish what the targets are, periodically when you discuss fees in both the USD and CNY currencies.
What about a currency basket like XDR or even CFETs? So we're not vulnerable to a single fiat currency.
Well, that's an idea down the road, but as far as you've got to be able to connect with what people know is real, what they're familiar with, and I don't think that the average person is going to be familiar with the SDR. It's not popular enough yet. It's not been advertised enough yet. For people that are in the know in the financial communities, it may be sufficient. So that will be a good topic of discussion as to whether or not to use something more common and generic that isn't quite as volatile.
Well, it could just be a reference use and then convert it client side. We don't require them to pay with that token, just that it's what we reference when setting the fees.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have more references, but it does put more of a burden in terms of workload. Somebody, I would think, could come up with an automation so that when you set the price in one type of currency, whatever the price in the other currencies are at that moment in time, you just calculate it out. So all you're really discussing is one target, and then you make the equivalency by a program that just spits out the others.
Ken Code says peg to bit 20, and I actually... you might be joking, Ken, but I kind of think that a basket is a great idea too. And Bit20 is a very cool project in terms of that. I heard also that it's gone up 20 times this year. So
that's a good point. Bit20 would be a good one to use. It's not a really popular and highly traded asset, but it's very representative and it's very above board in terms of what the basket is at the moment. And it's based on the popularity of the coin market cap prices. So that is a very good idea, Ken. I like that.
And it's popular. There's a premium on that sucker. Go try to buy it. You know what I mean? But I do think that somebody made a good point regarding paying out in a bid asset and having it so it. I think it was it T-Bone or it was either T-Bone or G-Chicken. I can't read through here fast enough, but they said that maybe we should have it so it's paying out this bid asset on an hour, and it's retargeting on an hourly basis based on the price.
That'd be a dynamic way of doing the prices, and that's been discussed ad nauseum in the forum. And it's a good, worthy thing to try and do down the road, but it's nothing that can happen right away. That's for sure.
Well, and the other thing then to bring up, if that's something like this is down the road, is that Bytemaster with EOS said that BitShares 3.0 could become, BitShares 2.0 could utilize EOS and become fee free. So I find myself wondering, might it be a good idea to go fee free, for BitShares to buy into EOS and have a bunch of extra throughput that in the network, right? Own a bunch of throughput in the network so we can have a fee free chain.
Yeah, I think I would like to pick up here fractional note, but not all fees are for free. I think only a few, because the DAO itself, BitShares is a DAO or a DAC, it needs to create some revenues to pay the stakeholders and to pay also for the security. So it wouldn't make sense in some terms to say that everything should be free. But I think also I see a trend here that especially for like transfers will be free. I think there will be a huge competition soon coming up between different blockchains where they say like if you send money from A to B, you don't have to pay for that. But if you register a token, that should have a fee. And in this way, we also have to be careful. I mean, Steam already shows that there's no fees, but people use it. You have the rate limited, so you have basically a certain amount of transactions you can do for free, and then you're basically slowed down depending on your stake. I think that's a very good idea, and also if I understand EOS correctly, EOS will be a smart contract platform similar to Ethereum, also with a completely new fee model. And if you can do a free smart contract, that's going to be very powerful, because right now Ethereum, if you create a smart contract and if you don't put up enough gas into the smart contract will not be executed and will fail and will just drop ever the gas ran out. So we really have to look into that, where should fees be applied and so on. I think for the BitShares platform in general, I like the basket idea. I think a SDR pack could be really cool. A pack to digital currencies would be quite a adventure, I would say, especially since digital currencies went up so far. For me, the most important thing was just now to basically give an update that the committee is working on it, that we are discussing it actively, and that we are active here to adjust the fees according to the latest price changes, and that we are really looking forward to also get community feedback on certain kind of fees. I know that Data is always very behind it, and I'm very happy that he's so actively adjusting the fees, all that with the rest, and I'm very looking forward also to PeerPlay's fee model, so that we can see actually how do different graphene chains approach the fee system, and how do they value the fees, and also the DAO concept, because we shouldn't forget, I mean, like now we even more than ever with the high BitShares prices, our worker system now has a lot of potential to add a lot of value to BitShares, and the worker is funded through the reserve pool, and the reserve pool is funded through fees. So we also have to think about where do we get income? Where's money coming in for us?
Exactly. And also, Chris, whenever the committee does decide on whatever the fees should be, and perhaps I'm ignorant about this, could this be published somewhere?
Yes, I think it should be.
Isn't it always published on CryptoFresh?
Yes, it is available on CryptoFresh. When you type in the proposal ID number, you can find it. I was just looking it up, if I could share a link to see what has happened. What some committee members do, I usually also do that in their committee forum post, where they are introducing themselves. And I know that FAF is always doing that. They basically give a short web to say, like, I agree or disagree to that specific proposal, and this people can basically see, okay, I voted for FAF, I voted for Open Ledger, I voted for Fuzzy or another committee member, and I like his decision, that's why he continues to keep my vote, and if he doesn't vote it in my favor and he did it the third time, then I will remove my vote. I think here committee members should be also very transparent to just show people how they voted. I don't think that there's proposal a single forum thread where we always publish, okay, now this is the next proposal. But I think that would be a good approach for the future, to have a forum thread where the committee basically makes an announcement. This is what we agreed on. This is what changed, just to be very transparent and to also show the stakeholders, okay, something happened here, because most of the time, I think not everybody will notice that the fees have been updated.
Okay, thank you.
But I noticed that a couple of people are doing that in their private threads. I'm also doing that when I approve a proposal, then I will do that. I also know that Xerox is doing that as a proxy. So if Xerox is agreeing or disagreeing to a topic, then he usually makes a statement in his thread and says, this was my decision and here's why.
Okay, I might need about 15 minutes to talk about stealth, so let's get on to that, all right?
Sure,
okay.
sure.
Yeah. Stealth has been one of the most anticipated features in BitShares for quite a while. There's many reasons for this. One of the reasons is that the founding people, the people who started our community quite a few years ago now, were all interested in a set of principles, one of them being the non-aggression principle, where nobody acts with force to try and force somebody to do their will, where we treat each other with respect. And having a stealth feature helps to protect us from people who try to intrude into our lives, because we can keep the transactions that we want to keep private, and we can keep what our assets are as private. So it's a very important feature. Another reason that stealth is an important feature is look what happened to Dash and to Monero, and that's the only feature they really have that BitShares doesn't have, and they don't have hardly any of the things that we can do, and yet their market caps are many times ours. So just bringing on the ability to use stealth is going to raise our market cap enormously, I think. And I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. So I could go into a little bit of the history of the stealth. That was first introduced as an idea by Bytemaster shortly after BitShares 2.0 came on, because a couple of reasons. He said it's a very important thing to put into place. And another reason was that he was running out of money. The development money was all spent, and he has a family to feed. He has rent to pay. So he wanted to do something and get paid for it that was good for everybody, though. And he introduced the idea, and the debate became endless. And a lot of the people did not want to spend any more money on development. They thought he should continue to develop for free. Now, that's impossible. He had rent to pay, so I know that. And most people, if they think about it, and yet people were blocking the voting in of workers who would get paid. And partially I can agree with them, because they already put in a lot of investment money, and they tend to think that American developers are overpaid. And in some ways they are compared to people who develop in the rest of the world. They command many times the salary, but they need it because the rents are much higher. Okay, so that's some of the background. So when a consensus couldn't be reached to pay Bytemaster to develop that feature, I stepped in and I said, I'll pay for it, because I wanted to help the community, and I want to help myself. I'm a large holder of BitShares. So I did pay for it. And he developed it up to the point where it's usable through the command line interface, but it's not really usable by grandma, for instance. It's very hard to use safely, and so it isn't being used. It's available. You can use it. It's on the CLI. If you want to jump through a lot of hoops and take risks about losing your money, or not careful about losing everything you got, you can use it. Okay, so by the time it was developed to that, Bytemaster wanted to go on with other things, because he didn't see a solution at the time to make it user-friendly. And he wanted to go on. He was working on Steemit, for instance. And so I heard Ken Code say, well, he could make it user-friendly. And so, another point, when Bytemaster wanted to go on and work on other things, he offered to refund me all the money I had paid him to develop it. And I thought that was very fair of him. And I took him up partially. I sold him back at my cost 800,000 of the million shares. At one point, I owned all 1 million shares. So it was the very first in a fee-backed asset where the development money will eventually get repaid, plus an income to the people who develop it, pay for the development through fees charged anytime anybody uses it. So I sold back to Bytemaster, I forget the exact number, but I sold the most back to him. And then after a while, when I heard that Ken had thought of ways of developing up to the point where it would become user-friendly and anybody could use it, I talked Bytemaster into selling most of his shares, 600,000 of them, to BitShares Munich. because they would go on developing them. And I told ByteMaster, well, you keep 200,000 shares, you sell them 600,000, and they're going to do the development, and that will make your 200,000. You'll regain your money that you put into it and have a continuing income from those 200,000 you have, and you don't have to bother with the further development. They'll be taken care of by BitShares Munich. And he agreed to that. He gave it to BitShares Munich at a very, very low price, which Ken Code was able to pay for all by himself by posts that he made on Steemit about the things he was going to do and the development. He was able to use that money that he earned by talking about it on Steemit to buy those shares from ByteMaster for BitShares Munich. And now BitShares Munich had in its treasury the first fee-backed asset, along with the other things that they were developing to make their company valuable. So using that as a basis for why it would be a useful investment to invest in BlockPay, their token, they did an ICO and they raised a lot of development funds. And so the development of all their other products has been ongoing for the last quite a while. And Ken Code used to write about it every week and keep us updated, and that was fine. Well, then about, a while ago, a month ago, 2 months ago, I don't know how long, all of a sudden reports stopped, and it seemed that development had come to an end. Well, I'm very interested in Stealth. I can't say anything about the rest of their business, BitShares Munich, but I still own 120,000 shares of Stealth. I'm the one who initiated it. I arranged for it to be sold from ByteMaster to BitShares Munich for a very low price. So I'm interested, and I've got a right to know what's going on. And so I wanted to try and figure out why Stealth wasn't being reported on and why it was supposed to have been at the point where it was almost going to be on the testnet. We were just about there. And then it seemed like it stopped. So I want to know why. Anyway, for the last month, there's been no information forthcoming from BlockPay, so I can't find out why. So I talked to Ken Code a little while ago and says, well, forget about it. I don't care why anymore, but I want it to continue being development. So I have forwarded to Ken Code the money he needs to pay for development, and it is now ongoing. And Stealth is being developed as we speak, and it will be on the testnet within a short period of time. Thank you.
Once upon a time, I will pitch in whale shares to you guys to write about that stuff and update people on Stealth. And I will give you some too if that's what you're interested in doing. I think Stealth is amazing. I've been waiting for it too. I think it's something that we need. I think it's not the end, like it's not the end all be all, but it's a definite big step. And if we have the resources now, I will definitely leverage whatever I've got.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for that, for funding the completion of that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it shouldn't be needed though. Should not be needed.
I agree, it shouldn't, but for this particular moment in time with the lack of worker proposals, et cetera, it's probably necessary. But yeah, I think you did a great job in summarizing all that once upon a time, and I am so appreciative of your generosity and spirit to give that, to fund this for such a long period of time. And thankfully, BitShares Munich has done a great job of taking the ball and running with it until recently. So thank you so much for all your efforts, everybody, for helping to push that forward, because I think it's a crucial feature that we need to get into the ecosystem as soon as possible. To hear that it's coming to the testnet soon, and that couldn't have happened without your input and without your funding to kind of fill in the gaps of where we are right now.
I agree. It shouldn't have been needed now, but it also shouldn't have been needed 2 years ago or whenever it was, because it should have been funded by a worker proposal. But it wasn't, so I stepped in and did it. And now I'm stepping in again. And it's not going to be that expensive, and I'm going to benefit from it too, and everybody's going to benefit from it. So, but if we can get some extra funds from a post on Steemit to help Ken pay for this, then fine. That's great.
Well, I want to say thank you once upon a time. I know that it's been frustrating at times throughout this entire history, and nothing goes perfectly when we're trying to build amazing stuff. It is important that I recognize that, and everybody recognizes that you've been very big in promoting Stealth and backing it and trying to get it done. I also would say that I think that if anybody's interested in helping with a worker proposal, that's something we should try, and I'm willing to leverage what I have to give an incentive for them to do that with you or help you create a worker proposal.
Yeah, that's a great idea too.
Just keep me up to date, man.
I think it's important that we continue to focus on that and make sure that that doesn't get derailed in any fashion. I mean, there's been some lags, in the development, but I think we're back on track now. And let's just hope that we can continue with that forward momentum and not let any outside influences derail that. And I have a full faith and credit in Ken Code's abilities. He's been a great leader of that project, and I think that the technical side of that has been perfectly well managed by him, and I'd like to see him continue doing that.
As far as I can see, there should be absolutely no reason that stealth development would come to a halt now. And if anything happens to bring it to a halt, I am going to be enraged.
Oh, I can understand why you're somewhat enraged already, buddy, to be honest with you. But I will say that I appreciate what you're doing.
Well, I think that's very good news regarding the stealth. I'm happy to hear that, and I'm also looking forward to the first technical specifications for stealth to see how that will all fit into the BitShares network. And as I still don't know really if it's a hard fork or not, but we will have to see that. I'm looking forward to that kind of information.
The hard fork took place quite a while ago, Chris.
Well, not necessarily completely once upon a time, because if I understand correctly, and maybe I'm misinformed, but I was under the impression that the infrastructure that the hard fork provided way back in the day with BitShares 2.0 for confidential transactions is not going to be adequate fully to support the stealth that Ken Code is developing. So yeah, that's a very important question that I'd like an answer to as well.
That's a separate issue. The hard fork was to enable fees to be charged that go to the asset, the stealth asset.
I see. Yeah, you got a good point, because the stealth was the first example of a feature that was used, that the fee-backed asset approach was used for. So that aspect of it is certainly in place, but there possibly, and this is something Ken Code could perhaps chime in and explain, whether any other additions to the back end would be required that would necessitate a hard fork. But the fees for it probably is not something that would require a hard fork.
That's another reason why it's so important to get that going, because once stealth is going and we have an example of a fee-backed asset, then other developers are going to jump in and pay for the development of other features.
Exactly. That was the one thing about the fee-backed asset that was exciting. It really got the community riled up about all the possibilities. And so we were looking forward to stealth being the first example that they could use as a template for doing other fee-backed assets. So I agree, that is very important for the further development of additional features that we might not even be aware of yet.
That's it.
So if someone can write up a spec about what is required for the remaining steps to complete it, then we can organize a worker proposal for it.
That's a very good idea. Necessary. Yeah, maybe it isn't, but that's a good. If funds are short to get stealth finished, then I think that's a perfectly good thing to do to get additional community support to raise the funds, whether it be on Steam or otherwise, a worker proposal to complete the development if funds are lacking.
Well, I think if funds aren't exactly lacking, there should be all kinds of funds within BitShares Munich. I just don't know why they're blocked, and none of us do. But there shouldn't be any shortage of funds. But in the meantime, I'm willing to pay for it.
Well, there's no shortage of funds in BitShares. My God, we've got like $100 million worth of funding in the pool. So I find myself thinking...
I know, Fuzzy, but people bought BlockPay tokens in order to get a revenue stream from Stealth, so they have paid for the development of Stealth as their part of their investment. So let's not forget.
Yeah, that's part of the BitShares Munich BlockPay tokens is the payment of these development issues. And yeah, I'd like to see that continue. I don't know what the holdup on that is either.
That's right.
I don't disagree with you on that notion once upon a time. I just don't know all the details. And what I'm saying is really that at the very least, that's something that's not really in my control. But there's things that are.
I don't know all the details either. So that's why rather than wait for the details, I want development to go on and get it as possible.
And another thing that's important to realize is, I mean, the people who are busting their butts in this ecosystem should not be afraid to ask for BTS, because if they were in any other ecosystem, they would literally just store their funds in the wallet and get minted, coins thrown at them, and they would have more voting stake. But like in a system like this where your tokens also represent your voting power essentially in the ecosystem, then that becomes a very important thing that we recognize, that the people who are busting their asses need to hold these BitShares. We need to give them the BitShares, because if they're the ones who are sacrificing for all this stuff, and putting a lot of money out, then in the end, they're going to be the ones that, in my opinion, we should expect to have the best interests at heart of BTS. And those are the people that we should try to get the tokens into the hands of, because there's going to be big money that's going to start coming in more and more. It's going to kind of do a Toyota on us. Like from what happened to me at the AOS the consensus conference. But we need to, in my opinion, have kind of a bulwark ready for that.
Right. We also have to be careful. Sometimes money is working against us rather than for us.
True.
I think we see a very good example of that right now with Alejandro, yeah, Alfredo, sorry. Alfredo, who is now starting new BitShares Block Explorer. Did you guys saw that one already? I think that's going to be a really, really cool new project where we have a better interface. Hopefully that one will not get hung up and stuck all the time. And then we're going to really have a cool new platform and tool that we can share with newcomers to the BitShares platform. And I think that's why it's important to attract new talents, to attract new developers for the BitShares platform, to build new features, to build new products, and to keep them motivated. I think we now are really going high. And as far as I read, I think I just read a quote or a number a couple of days ago that there are more than 30 or 40 people who already want to create their own coins based on the BitShares platform after EOS, after they learned about EOS. So I see a lot of new people are now taking a look into our platform and say like, wow, this is amazing what you can do here. And you have all these tools already done. You don't need to create a new smart contract to create a coin. So this is all coming now together, and I think that is amazing.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm really grateful that Ken Code was able to find Alfredo and bring him up to speed on our system.
Yeah, we owe it to Ken Code that Alfredo's here, and he looks like he's being an outstanding worker.
Hey,
Yes,
go ahead.
Nope, just throwing in my applause for Alfredo too.
Thanks. I'm sorry for interrupting. I just want to bring up something that iHash Fury brought up here. He says we have devs that aren't paid, and that was directed at Chris. Do you feel like there's anything that you can give us any details on with respect to that? Is there something going on with those devs not getting paid, or is there an expectation that they will eventually get paid, or is this kind of misinformation, or like not a misunderstanding on iHash's Fury's part or anything like that? I'm just trying to find like a ground to stand on this question.
Well, right now I cannot really say much about it, but the BitShares worker proposal that we are managing, Alfredo here, he's paid, and he already received his payment so far. For the others, I cannot comment right now. I would like to
say whether they're getting paid or not, can't you?
Sorry, not right now. No comment. What I would like to do is I would like to talk about the new Jax wallet, the BitShares integration. Do we have any comments on that?
We'd rather know whether the devs who are working on it are getting paid or not, and if they'll continue.
Yeah, well, before we close off the stealth discussion, that's a good wrap-up thing to answer. It's a yes or no question. Are they getting paid or not? Simple.
Sorry, I cannot comment on it.
Well, maybe it would be better if I could say, would it be helpful if I used any of the resources I have to help these devs? Are there devs that need paid that I could help maybe? Or maybe, man, I just want to try to help these guys before they leave if there's something going on. I don't know what's all's going on. I try to know, but man, it's hard to know all this. So I guess where I'm coming at it from is if I can help with the resources I have to kind of keep, maybe not heal everything, but create kind of like a life support unit while everything else is figured out. That's where I'm taking this from, and I would really love if maybe you'll consider that and what resources I have now that I've got whale shares available, that maybe we can leverage that, because I did the calculations, and at current market cap, that's like $170,000+ a year with whale shares that I can essentially give out.
We already raised the money to pay those devs. I personally bought several hundred thousand or a couple of 100,000 block pay.
Oh,
so those funds were raised, and it took time and effort to bring those devs up to speed, and now it's all being dissipated. And I'd like to know why, or never mind why. I'd like to know if the devs are being paid or not. Well, I don't think they are, but I'm certain whether they are or not, and I'd like to know when they will start getting paid.
I've heard that they're not being paid, but I'm not sure why, and I don't want to attribute motive to it because I don't know what motives are. My point right now is there are always going to be difficulties that we run into, everybody. And for anybody who's listening to this, if they think that this is the first frigging difficulty that BitShares has had to overcome and the community has had to overcome, I could come up with a friggin' book of it, okay? If I had the damn time to write it. But we've accomplished a lot despite a lot. And my goal has always been to try to mediate and try to at least use what I have to help us wade through the difficult times. And that's kind of my point right now, is that I understand where you're coming from, Once Upon a Time. And I do understand that. But for me, I just want to help with what I've got. And if that can help, then maybe we can use that. So I hate to see you paying out of pocket, especially when you're frustrated, man, because that's the worst two combination.
I appreciate you wanting to help too, and I wanted to help. I did help. I put a lot of money into it, my retirement money.
I know you did.
And I hate to see it being dissipated by people who cannot seem to stick to our founding principles.
Well, that's the hard part, man. I don't know what's in other people's heads. I know what's in mine. So I hope that all of you guys just consider what's in your heads and what your goals are and how we can all work together to get through the tough times, as they will arise. We will never expect them, or very rarely will expect them. And I just think that it's important that we establish what we've got that we can do and what we can use right now. So if anybody else has options or things that they think might be helpful that we can use in the interim until all the stuff behind the scenes is figured out, I would be very, very appreciative if you guys just actively consider that.
All right. Thank you very much for your questions and for your participation today in today's Hangout. If you have no further questions, then I would like to say everybody have a nice week, have a nice weekend, and we're going to see us next week for the number 23 of the BitShares Hangout. And I'm looking forward to your next questions next week. And let's have another exciting week with new updates and with new, with absolutely new updates. I'm very excited for the upcoming days.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you, everybody, for joining this week as well. I guess we'll see you guys next Friday. And thank you